you're in Kansas City.
Right now I am. Yes, I live in St. Louis on the week. My wife's in St. Louis. I work in Kansas City during the week.
Did you ever think you did see the day when the Royals would be better than the Cardinals at the beginning of the season?
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Well,
The Cardinals have been looking really
it's
bad.
been really bad for the Cardinals so far, but you never know. I mean, I've seen teams like Boston start out with a dismal beginning of the season and end up at the top of the division. So
absolutely. I mean, they could still turn around. And the thing about the Central is it's kind of a weak division.
yeah.
But the Pirates are looking good.
Pirates are actually a good ball team. I mean, usually the Pirates start out, like this, and then they just disintegrate.
They're going
never
to
worry about it.
Start dealing people.
Yeah, right.
You guys are going to have a heck of a trek coming up in June. I think I counted 28 shows in 30 days.
That sounds about right.
23 and 27 in July. So how do you guys keep yourself mentally fresh and physically fresh when you're on the road for all those days?
Well, we start out very excited, and the first 2 or 3 weeks are amazing. Even though you don't quite have your sea legs for the first few shows. I mean, usually the shows you do, like the first week you're out, they get the show where there's more
clams, nothing but clams.
Nothing but clams. Yeah. But it's, you got plenty of energy. And then in the middle of the tour, you're like, I think I may be dying, and then the last 3 weeks of the tour, you got a second win and you wish it wasn't over. So, but we have the comforts of the bus. I mean, JD and I are big, sports guys. So, we just watch TV all day on the bus. We'll watch golf, baseball, whatever's on.
Mm-hmm.
And then
beach volleyball,
yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah,
we like sports
when we're away from home. Yeah, but one way or the other, it's just we have a good bunch of guys. I mean, our crew and our band, they're close with us. I mean, we're very close friends, and so we have enough camaraderie to keep it going. I mean, I think maybe it would be harder to do tours that are as arduous as ours if you had problems, right, among troops, so that really helps us.
I mean, out. It's our friends, it's like kind of everybody that we bring into the camp. It's a friend of a friend, it's, all of our, the guys that are in our band, it's somebody that we trust, that that knows us, that knows what kind of people we want to hang out with, and they provide us with, it's like, here's a name, and it's like, it's not like we put on an open call rehearsal and have 30 drummers come in or anything like that. It's like we call a friend, they say, hey, I think this guy might work for you, and that's pretty much how the last 3 of our drummers have come into the band. Before that, it was just everybody we knew. It was just all, friends that, come together. And so it's people that you want to hang out with when you're not playing together anyway. So that makes it real easy to, spend time in a 45-foot tube for 3 months.
Sure.
It's really literally people sleeping on top of each other. You got like, your 2-foot space or whatever, 2 foot, your little cube, that's your, private place. But it's like, even, it's like we go out to dinner with each other, it's not like we, go somewhere and all split up and I'll see you at the show. No, it's like, we're a gang, basically. It's just like we all, just get together and go eat, go have a,
and then you take a shot of vodka and go on stage.
Yeah, that's one thing that I really like about your band is you guys seem to really have a good relationship with each other. I like your style back in the day with the suits, now with the mechanic shirts. And I like the interaction with the crowd. It's a very fan-friendly show. And I think that that's something that's kind of been lost on a lot of artists today, is it's not always fan-friendly. They just go up and play and then they're out. You guys...
I'll tell you one of the reasons why. It's because so many of the shows these days by bands are sequenced. They're on a clock,
Yeah.
with a track that, if they don't hit the beginning of their song just right, then they can't play their song.
Mhm.
Or, 5 guys up there that are playing every single note, singing every note and every word, and if we want to stretch a song out to be 15 minutes long, we can do that.
Right.
If we want to, take 10 minutes between 2 songs and Billy tells a story and asks questions with the audience, we can do that too. It's what a show has always been in the past, up until recently, when they're, just running them on a damn sequencer.
Yeah.
That's not rock and roll. What we do, not to toot our horns that, in that way, oh yeah, we're better than everyone, but we play our, music, and it is an interactive experience. If the audience is just sitting there staring at us,
Yeah.
we're not going to get that energy, and, we're not going to give it back to them in the same way. If the audience is up there standing, foaming at the mouth at the front of the stage, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to be giving it every little bit that we have to just, kick ourselves in the butt and kick the audience too, and just really make it, an interactive event.
And we also try to give the same amount of energy to a crowd of 300 or a crowd of 5,000. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's like, the people that showed up deserve that interaction, and so in other words, you can't be mad at people who aren't there
Right.
in front of the people who are there. That's not fair. You know what I mean? So so you could take the lowliest dive in the world, or we're opening for somebody in a coliseum, and it's the same show for us.
That's another thing that I really admire about the band is you guys are both Midwestern guys. You grew up in the Midwest. You guys, I was looking at the schedule today. You play some really different venues, and I think that's to me that's awesome, because me, when I was younger, I would love to go to here in St. Louis, the Ready Room and these little dive bars where 300-400 people are just packed together, and that's to me what rock and roll is about, and it's supposed to be. So I admire that you guys still do that. I think that's awesome.
Well, yeah, totally. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into tour, and we don't pick the places that we play most of the time. We have an agent who, that's their job. They go out and sell us to various venues, and get us enough money to be able to go out and do this. That's a base economic thing. Right. But playing a sweaty blues club for 300 people definitely fills you up in a way, emotionally, that, when you go into a 1,000-seat theater where people are sitting there and maybe having some wine and cheese, you can kind of, you still feel that the blues club thing.
Sure.
It's, you try to give that same energy, to those people sitting there. And then hopefully by the end of the show, maybe they've gotten out of their seats and they're, all standing, and maybe they're crowding the stage a bit and trying to get on, and maybe they're punching each other in the face. It's it's, you just kind of take one place, and move to the other. But we do play performing arts centers, we play blues clubs, we play strange restaurants in bowling alleys, in the middle of Texas. It's if it's a place that'll have us, we'll go there once at least, and, we've done them, where, people have fallen on the stage, and, we've ran out with, like scared for our lives, and other places, you go into it, where you think it's a hoity toity, like suit wearing kind of audience, and that has way more money than we're used to. And they end up being wild and crazy and all that. And so it's, you have to have an open mind going into all of these places.
Well, you have to give the audience permission to have fun. It's sometimes when you're playing the big theaters, they're in seats, they feel that it's their job to sit there in the seats and not mess up anything or whatever, and to listen. And if you give them the permission to, hey, everybody stand up, come on down, they will. It's like they just don't know that that's okay. Whereas if you're in the 300 capacity blues club, they already have permission when they come in there. They know that's why they're there.
Yeah. I know Knuckleheads in Kansas City is a place you guys frequent a lot, and you'll be there the night before you're in Belleville, Illinois. And the place you're playing there is the Lincoln Theater, which is actually an old movie theater, still a movie theater today, but renovated into a concert hall now, which is pretty cool. That's where I'll be catching you guys at, because I'll be back in St. Louis. And I'm looking forward to it because I haven't been there since 1994 when I saw the movie Speed.
So that's amazing. That's amazing.
Well,
so
that was the same thing. In Salina, Kansas, there's a theater. It used to be a Fox movie theater. They turned it into the Stiefel.
Okay.
Beautiful, beautiful theater. One of those, with the balcony, and the velvet kind of curtains and all that. I saw Empire Strikes Back there.
Oh, wow.
And, it was a movie theater when I was a kid. And somewhere, in the early 2000s, I think, is when they turned it back into a club. It was like empty for 20 years or whatever, even longer maybe. And they turned it into a music venue. And so it's like early, I'm trying to remember, maybe it was like 2015 when we played there the first time. And it's like walking in there, like, wow. I was 6 years old the last time I was here. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, I understand when you talk about this place in Belleville, that same sort of thing.
Yeah. Belleville's just a cool little town to hang out in. I mean, it's called Bell Vegas by the locals. A bunch of little dive bars around there, so it'll be a good time. I'm looking forward to it.
That's great.
I wanted to ask you about working with different artists. I know you worked with Kanye, Neptunes, and even the Rolling Stones. What is it like going from working with a hip hop artist like Kanye, who can't be the easiest to work with at times, to a group like the Rolling Stones? I mean, as a music fan, to work with the Rolling Stones to me would just be like, oh my God. So what was that like?
It was. Yeah. I mean, thankfully I was working for a producer that I'd worked with before. So, I knew him. So there was that comfort level, but it was, the Stones was my first freelance gig. The other, Neptunes and Kanye gigs were, I was a staff engineer at the record plant in Hollywood. And, I worked there for 4 years, doing everything from, commercials. Like the first time they did the I'm Loving It McDonald's commercials, we did all the music for that, so I worked on, sitting there renaming all the audio files, for the different languages that they said I'm loving it in and things like that. Stuff like that too, doing, I worked a little bit on, as an assistant engineer, basically you set up the studio and you're kind of like the liaison from the outside clients for the studio. And it's like anybody needs something or, something breaks, you're kind of the point person for making sure they have everything they need. And so like Michael Jackson and Mariah Carey, it's like the biggest artists in the world, I'm sitting there making their tea and, getting them, lunch orders and stuff. And then every once in a while, one of them would come in and they're like, hey, we need an engineer that knows the studio and can do something. So things like that for the Neptunes and Kanye and a few others, that's just stuff that we kind of were, there to do, help out kind of any way that's possible. Yeah. And some of them, weren't the most fun or easy to work with. The Kanye record, I got fired, on the second day.
Oh, wow.
Because I told them that they messed up their tracks a bunch. It's like, because they had very sped the tracks and did all these overdubs that were out of tune, and then he wanted to track his beats and they didn't, they were a completely different time and pitch, than what they were originally. And I was like, you guys messed this up. It's like, that wasn't what he wanted to hear. And so, they had somebody else, come in, and I was only supposed to be there for 2 days anyway, but you know,
Was
your
that
name.
the college dropout? Is that what that was?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, it was early for him, but he was still not super pleasant to work with.
What about like the Neptunes? I know Pharrell's another guy who just blew up.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, I mean, they were amazing. I mean, they were prolific. They, wrote every day.
Mhm.
I remember working with them on a commercial, and it's like every free second that they weren't working on the commercial, they were working on other artists. They had, just nonstop ideas and things, and super great guys to work with. They were really fun and collaborative and, pleasant to be around. That was the great thing. There was, I mean, most people were, if they have any level of success and they're at a place, where it costs a lot of money to rent the place out,
Mhm.
they're going to be pretty decent people most
Sure.
of the time. And so, there's a few, just like everything, you go anywhere, there's somebody that's going to be a fly in the ointment in some way.
Sure, definitely.
So it's just kind of the same thing,
Mhm.
but yeah, so, but I mean, that's how Billy and I met. Is, I got called to help him on his fourth solo record, Beautiful Door, for 2 or 3 weeks. Just needed to help. His other engineer was busy and needed some help finishing it. It's like, do a couple of vocal overdubs and a couple of other things, and get it ready for mixing. And during that time, it's like, well, let's record this. Or he was actually asked to record a cover of Lost Highway for a Canadian TV show, and he came down the studio one morning and said, "Hey, I've seen you playing guitar a little bit. Why don't you learn this song and we'll record it?" So I sat there for a couple hours and we cut it, and it had a thing that was just inspiring, and it was really neat. And it's been almost 17 years now, because of
cut
that.
to 17 years and 13 records later.
Yeah,
That's was going to be my next question. I caught you guys back in '08 at Vintage Vinyl down on Del Mar in the Loop in St. Louis. And that was back when I was actually working at a radio station in St. Louis at the time, and I just happened to visit that record store quite often. And I think that's something that and I know you both are huge music fans as well. Do you think that that's something that is kind of a lost treasure in America? Is the record store? It seems to kind of gone away. Places like Vintage Vinyl are very few and far between now.
Really absolutely, though.
We love them. I mean, that's anytime we get a chance to go into one, because I mean, that's the way we were raised. It was the record store. And I mean, we're not like a bunch of old guys putting down, the 12-year-olds listening to songs on their phone. But it's, for us, that's not, it's the experience of it. You have to, when we bought records, it's like it was a treasure, and you take it home and you unwrap it and you put it on the thing. And I still carry a Discman on airplanes and play CDs, and I take the actual CDs in a CD case.
Oh, wow.
It'd be like, I'm a caveman. I mean, kids don't even know what it is.
No, they don't. I can tell you for a fact, my high school seniors out here, they probably don't even know what a CD is. I'll be talking pop culture references to them, and they look at me like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And
it's like flip their phone open, and
Right.
It's like, okay, I see it.
yeah.
The great thing is, I mean, traveling the country the way we do, there are certain spots, it's like, okay, you can look forward to going to Vinyl Renaissance there in Kansas City, the Electric Fetus in Minneapolis. There's a place,
Grimey's.
Grimey's in Nashville. There's a place we play in Amagansett, Long Island, New York. And right next to the club called Stephen Talkhouse, there's a vinyl shop. And, it's like every time we go there, it's like everybody, it's like half the bus walks out goes into the record shop and comes out with like a hat and a t-shirt, plus records, I'm trying to remember the name of the store because I bought a hat one of the times. And it's like we look forward to these spots because it is really our youth. I mean, it's the places, that inspired us, really to want to make records. It's like just flipping through and seeing all the names, and it's like, oh, these are all our heroes. We love all these records, and it's really inspirational, and you can find something that it's like, oh, you forgot about, and you're like, oh, and that'll spark something that maybe we'll make a record that'll be inspired by that thing that we found somewhere. Right. So they are these places where like-minded folks go, and we can always count on something great coming out of going to a record shop.
In the 17 years now you've been together as a band, how have you seen yourselves as musicians grow?
Oh, we've grown a lot. I mean, we all had kind of different styles when we first started the band.
Mm-hmm.
And when they came together, that our first couple of records were like these sort of hillbilly Frank Zappa sense of humor, British invasion influenced, things, and a little bit experimental, those first couple of records. And we weren't playing or singing like any of us do. We just were doing it as it was a sort of I don't know what you call it, but it was like let's write as if we were writing a Broadway show, and
okay.
you're going to be playing this,
mm-hmm.
And then after a while, we just started sounding more like we do, and then we started to sound kind of like an Americana band,
mm-hmm.
moving a little bit away from the hillbilly thing, but ultimately headed toward what we are now.
Right.
The last 6 or 8 records have been exactly who we are. That's just the way we sound when we sing or play. But I mean, even as musicians, like when we first started out, JD, I mean, I've been playing drums since I was 9, and
right.
JD played in high school band and all kinds of stuff. But there were things that we didn't do that we do now. I mean, JD and I make the records by ourselves. I mean, we play and sing everything. And JD wasn't a lead guitar player when we started this band. I mean, he was a rhythm
or barely a guitar player at all.
He was always been a great rhythm player. But after a while, when the lead guitar player explodes like in Spinal Tap or something like that, and I would encourage JD. I said, you can do this. I hear you picking around. Like now, JD's the lead guitar player on all the records, and so we really are a mom and pop shop. You know what I mean? Except for we're on the road because there are 5 guys on the stage because obviously we have to have other people, but there are guys who go with us all the time, and it's a really close band, and but we've all I mean, as a live band, we've grown because we're more confident with our records, and so when we play them live, it just when you have that confidence about it, the audience is going to get a better show out of you. And in other words, the bands gelled together on stage, and JD and I gelled together in the studio years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always improving. I mean, we try things sometimes that we're not sure we can do. One time we recorded, just for the hell of it, we recorded an Emerson, Lake and Palmer song. And it was like, so we're going to do like a British art rock band song, us guys. Then we did it. Yep. I mean, just to stretch ourselves, never put it on a record. We just did it because when you do things like that, it stretches you and helps you grow as a musician.
Billy, I know you've talked about in the past in other interviews, you grew up listening to KMOX Cardinal games on the air. We lost Mike Shannon this week. Can you tell me, just as a Cardinal fan, what he meant to you as an announcer?
Well, he was. I knew Jack Buck also, and I was actually called into the booth by, I think it was Shannon's idea, for me to come up and sit in the booth with them, and they were going to, between, innings, they would talk to me and stuff like that. But Shannon asked me to call an inning. And, as growing up as a baseball player and a huge baseball fan and knowing baseball, it's like, oh yeah, I could call an inning. I froze like you can't even imagine. I mean, literally, once it was my turn, and I'm sitting there with Jack Buck and Mike Shannon, and I was literally saying things like Chris Farley did on the Chris Farley show on Saturday Night Live, when he'd say to Martin Scorsese, that thing about Jesus and everything, and he goes, "Did you write that?" And, it's like, I mean, I was really like that, and
Yeah.
I mean, saying stuff like, "And now that guy's coming over there toward where you bat the ball." I mean, like, it sounded like somebody had never seen baseball. And I looked at Shannon and I said, "Dude, I can't do this," And but he was such a funny guy and a fun guy to be around. And JD got to meet him too. And one night we hung out. Check this out for a group of folk. It was me and JD and LaRussa, who I've always been really close to, and Jim Leland and Bobby Knight and Mike Shannon.
Wow.
I mean, it's like, you talking about just being around.
It's a murderer's row of sports legends.
Coaching royalty. I mean, wow.
Yeah. It was unbelievable. And I always loved, even though I'm a Cardinal fan, but I always respected Leland so much, because you talking about old school. I mean, anybody who smokes in the dugout, but I actually got to go out and have one with him that night when we were hanging out with him. And it's just he's got his drink with him and his
Southern Comfort old fashioned.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll never forget that, because it was like, that is not an obvious drink for anyone, much less somebody that's a Major League Baseball manager. But that was his drink of choice, at least that night.
So that was great. Shannon was like, I mean, well, he had the place, that's where we were at Shannon's. And man, I got to hang out with him 2 or 3 times, and he was just always so gracious to me. But he was such a guy, he was just kind of gruff sometimes, but really nice to people and funny. I mean, he had it all. And what a great loss.
I mean, just the little I met him, he seemed like he would be the guy. If he wasn't a baseball player, an announcer, he would have been, the mayor of St. Louis or the governor, or like a senator, that kind of thing. He had that ability to just talk to anyone, control the room, really be the center, and everybody feel his presence, when he's, around you, everybody flock to him. And, he's just really a magnetic personality.
He was.
And so, I think anything that he would have done, he would have been, super successful at. He just chose to do baseball, and, some people have that gift.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I'm a little over time, so I don't want to keep you guys. Last thing is, Billy, I was sitting at home the other night and I'm flipping around on the TV and I came across a film that you had directed. I'd never seen it. Jane Mansfield's Car. Loved it.
Oh, good.
So I wanted to tell you that. I'm like, I'm looking at it, like, I missed it, back in 2012.
Everybody else.
Oh, no, it's a fantastic film. And I just wanted to let you know that. I'm like, I'm sure, it's like you said, it was missed by some, a lot of people, but it's truly, I enjoyed it. It was great.
That is so nice for you to say. That means a lot to me and to us, because we actually scored that movie.
I read that today.
And so we, because sometimes critics can be harsh on you if you do everything.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, sure, he wrote it, starred in it, directed it, got all these buddies of his in it. And he did the music too, So we made up a name for ourselves. So when you see the movie, it'll say music score by Owen Easterling Hatfield. We wanted it to sound like a fancy English guy. and it's just us and Brad
Yeah,
Davis.
yeah.
Well, it
Exactly.
was great. And yeah, I mean, awesome guys. So
You know, it's like I got to be there. You know, it's like during the making of it, you know, I just got to hang out. It's like there was a street dance scene, and I was the music what do they call the consultant. I was the music consultant for the street dance scene.
Yeah.
So that was basically all I had to do. And I think we shot that in the first 2 days,
Yeah.
you know, or maybe it might have even been the first day of shooting. And so we did that. And then I just got to hang out for another, you know,
Yeah.
3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, he told his wife it was going to take another month to finish the scene.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, we're going to have to come back to Cedartown, Georgia and reshoot this. But, you know, just got to hang out. And, you know, it's like, it's another thing where, you know, it's like everybody's like-minded, you know, they're all, you know, everybody's focused on doing their job. And, you know, there's creativity and people coming together. And it's the same thing with the way the band works too. It's like all of it collaborative efforts on making something creative with somebody's vision.
sure.
And you know, it's you know, really a pleasure to be a part of. And
Thanks for saying that.
But
Oh,
yeah,
you're welcome. Yeah, I wanted to make sure I noted that. Gentlemen, I appreciate the time. It's been awesome. July 8th and 9th, Kansas City, and then Belleville, Illinois. I'm looking forward to it. So
Looking forward to seeing you there.
yeah,
all
man.
right. Thanks for your time, guys.
Absolutely. All right. Take care.